want to thank you guys for being present yet again for my third speech here for my speech class. I want to thank you guys that are going to be watching online. Appreciate it, and hopefully we can get through this together, friends. This is my third speech, 3 out of 4, and this speech is an informative speech, and it's going to be over the exciting refrigeration cycle. Woo! I know, right? Not everybody's cup of tea, but it is probably one of the most fascinating parts of my job. Every time I've got the opportunity to study it, it always kind of makes me excited because I don't know if you guys realize it, but we are in a heat wave, right? And I don't know if you've seen online about the British heat waves, but the temperatures that it gets in Britain right now during their heat wave is about 70, 75, 80 degrees. And I don't know what temperature you keep your AC at your house, but that's the temperature, right? That's about the temperature. So to me, that's really ironic, right? And they say, well, it's because you guys have air conditioning. Well, our air conditioning keeps us at the temperature, the hottest temperature that it gets in your country. But that's neither here nor there. So air conditioning, right? We appreciate it. Not a lot of us know how it works. The goal with this speech is by the end of it, you maybe have a little bit more appreciation for that unit that's running outside your house. Maybe a little bit more practice. And I think it's interesting, right? The refrigeration cycle is almost backwards to what we think, and it's hard to understand, but that's what makes HVAC techs. So the goal of refrigeration is quoted, it's quoted by Eugene Silverton in his book, Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Technologies, 2021, and it's simple, right? The definition is of the process of removing heat where it's not wanted and putting it where it has little to no effect. That's the goal of refrigeration. The goal is to take heat where you don't want it, put it where it's not needed. So if you take this box to represent your house, right, even in this room, right, there's empty space in here, okay? And if you take that space and you take this pillow, right, to represent the heat in your house, right, you don't really think about heat being in the air, but the goal with refrigeration is to take that heat out of your house and put it outside where it doesn't matter. So how does that happen? That's the refrigeration cycle. That's the refrigeration cycle that's outlined by Shane Bailey, and that's kind of the cycle that we're going to look at here. So Shane Bailey, in his book Industrial Mechanics and Metronics, sorry, it's hard to say, in 2024, that's kind of the metric we're going to look at. So the first device is the metering device. This is where we're going to start and end the refrigeration cycle. The metering device, as its name says, meters how much liquid refrigerant goes into the system, okay? So this is our start and our end station. We start with low pressure liquid refrigerant, okay? This liquid refrigerant goes into the evaporator. The evaporator is the inside portion of the AC equipment. So if you think about your house, there's probably a closet somewhere where your furnace is. That's where your evaporator coil is. What the metering device's job is it lets in liquid. That liquid refrigerant is at a low pressure, at a very low temperature, right? Goes through the evaporator coil. The fan in your house blows the air from inside your house across the coils, and the heat that's in the air ends up in the refrigerant liquid, okay? All right, gotta think about it. So when you're cooling your house, you're not really cooling it down. What you're doing is you're removing the heat out of the air and allowing the air that's left behind to have no heat. That's where refrigeration is. That's why it's hard to understand, right? So the evaporator's job, the coils, as air is blowing across it, the air from inside your house, the heat that's in the air gets sucked into the refrigerant per se, and it causes that refrigerant to boil into a vapor. Because that heat has to go somewhere, right? So what it does is it boils the refrigerant in the pipe. What you feel coming out of your AC vents, that cool air, is the air that's gone across the evaporator coil. Okay? So that refrigerant is now at a high temp, but it's at a low pressure. Okay? That refrigerant now travels to the compressor. You guys are familiar with the compressor. This is a bike pump, right? Little baby compressor. What does a compressor do?
Compresses.
Right. It takes low pressure air, right, and it squeezes it down, right, to a small compact, right? So why do we need to do that? Because temperature and pressure are directly related. When you increase the pressure of something, do you think you increase or decrease the temperature? What do you think?
Increase.
You increase it, right? So if I were to take this pop can, right, and shake it, what did I just do to what's inside this pop can? Increase the pressure, right? So if I was able to keep shaking it, what would eventually happen?
Slowly.
Right, because the pressure is so high, right? Exactly. What do you think the temperature of this liquid would do if I continue to shake it? It would increase, right? The temperature would go up. That's what the compressor's doing. So now I have this refrigerant that's a vapor that we need to cool down. So what the compressor does is it increases the temperature. Because where do I want this heat to end up? Not in my house, I want it to be outside, right? How hot is it outside on summer days?
90.
90, right? So how do you cool something down with 90-degree air? You have to increase the pressure of it. The compressor increases the pressure. Now your outside unit, the condenser, the hot 90-degree air from the outside blows across the condenser coils and removes that heat. Okay? Cooling down that liquid. It condenses the liquid down from a high temperature, high pressure vapor, leaving the compressor and leaving the condenser. It's a high pressure, high temp liquid again, right? So if you are at your house and you want to know if your AC unit's working, go outside to your condenser. When it's running, just hover your hand over the condenser. You'll feel the heat that used to be in your house coming out on top of the compressor, or on top of the condenser, sorry. So, evaporator, compressor, we got to increase the pressure, increase the temperature so that we can cool it down. This is the reverse part, right? This is the magic. Outside with 90-degree air, you're cooling down the liquid back to the vapor back to a liquid state. And then we end up back at the metering device. Kind of confusing, right? But that's the magic of it. You're increasing the pressures to cool it down, you're decreasing the pressure to cool your house off. The amazing thing is it does this cycle 100,000 times a day. So hopefully this gives you a better opportunity. Maybe when your parents at home say, hey, close the door, you're letting out the good AC, now you understand what they're talking about. So this is an intro to the refrigeration cycle. Hope you have a little bit more of an appreciation. Thanks for being here, guys.